Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and you join me on the UK launch of not one, but two new vehicles. This, the new 6th generation Honda CRV, now available as a plug-in hybrid, and all new, all electric Ny1. So the CRV is in its 6th generation, but do you remember its humble beginnings when it was marketed as a true sports utility vehicle for families that had an active lifestyle? Well, it's been over 20 years, and like a lot of us, yeah, we have slowed down and we have gotten a little bit heavier, just like the CRV, which is also much bigger than the first generation. And it is definitely more based on comfort rather than sportiness, and that's no bad thing. Now, for this latest generation CRV, you can get it for the first time as a plug-in hybrid, and it is actually the brand's first plug-in hybrid here in the UK, but you can also get it as a full hybrid as well. But when it comes to the styling, it does look like it's had a heavy midlife facelift, but it is essentially a new car here. I do love the bold front end. It looks very much like a Honda CRV, but we have got an aggressive grille and a massive Honda badge on the front with the blue outline to let you know it is a hybrid. At the back, we have had a redesign to the taillights, and to distinguish the plug-in hybrid from the full hybrid, we have got body coloured wheel arches, and we have got blacked out wing mirrors on the plug-in, so that lets you know that this is of course the plug-in version rather than the full hybrid. And yes, of course, there is a charging port there on the near side front wheel arch, another indicator it is a plug-in. But yeah, I actually think the new CRV is a very good looking car. I probably wouldn't say it's the best looking in class, but it is very striking and distinctive. Now, you let me know what you think of the new CRV styling in the comments section below. I will mention also that all cars come with 18-inch alloy wheels, so you can tell that the car is designed to be comfortable rather than sporty. But yeah, I think that's enough of looking at the exterior of the new CRV. Let's see what they've done with the interior. Sat in the front of the new CRV, you are greeted by a very comfortable and nicely laid out interior, which definitely takes its design cues from another Honda car, the Civic. And that's no bad thing, because that's one of my favourite cars you can currently buy, and I do love the interior. And that's definitely been a positive for Honda, because it's been reflected in the new ZRV and now the new CRV. So you have got the honeycomb effect here on the dashboard, and it is there as well for the air vents, so it diffuses the air as it comes out of the air vents. And then we have got manual controls for things like the dual zone climate control. We got heated seats in here as well, and just basically it feels like a Honda Civic, but you sit high up. Now, the other thing I do like in here is because it is a CRV, getting in and out of the car is very easy because of that raised seating position. So if you do suffer from any kind of mobility issues, then this is definitely one car to look at. And there is electrical adjustment as standard. You even get electrical lumbar support, except for your front passenger, who just gets electric adjustment. Also, with the steering, we have both rake and reach adjustment, so getting the ideal driving position is easy. Also, when it comes to interior quality, it is a positive in here as well. We have got soft touch plastics here on top of the dash, on top of the doors, and we've got a little bit of soft plastic and leatherette here on the door panels. And yes, even here on the side, oh no, I thought that was going to be a bit of soft plastic, but no, that is hard, but that feels of a good quality. So there are some harder, scratchier plastics lower down, but do you know what? I've got no complaints in terms of the actual feel of the plastics here. It does feel well screwed together. Cubby spaces in the new CRV are actually pretty decent. We got some decent sized door pockets. We can get a medium to large size bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around a bit. Now, here up front on the center console, we have got a wireless charging pad, and there is a little bit of space surrounding it where you can put perhaps a wallet or some keys, and it is actually rubber lined, so I do like that. Then just behind there, we have got a couple of cup holders and a little tray area to perhaps put your key, but that's not rubber lined. However, the cup holders are, and you have got a couple of plastic grippers, so you can put a energy can in there and it should hold in place. yeah, I don't really think that's going to go anywhere. Then we have got the centre armrest, and if I lift it up, it unveils a little tray area and also a little bit of extra space underneath. But surprisingly, it's not as deep as I was expecting it to be, and it is lined with fabric, so that is a highlight. And then we have got the glove box, which is lockable. And when you get that open, you find it's actually not the biggest of glove boxes. It's not lined with any fabric, and the book pack is quite thick and does take up a little bit of space, but you could perhaps put that underneath the boot floor if you want to use that full potential of the glove box. So yeah, cubby spaces here in the new CRV are not too bad. I would say some rivals probably do better in certain areas, but do you know what? It's fine for this type of car. Now, just like the Honda Civic, we have got a plethora of physical buttons in here. So firstly, we have got manual controls for the dual zone climate control. And again, I do like the tactility of them, and they do feel really nice to use, even when you're on the move. Now here on the main center console, we have got a load of buttons here. Now on the left-hand side, these do all your drive modes. So there are around 5 drive modes you can choose from. And they are kind of things like sport, eco, normal. You've also got snow and tow as well, because the plug-in hybrid can tow up to 1,500 kilos. Then we've got a couple of little buttons. So we have got hill descent control, and we've got a little E button. So that means you can drive the car in full electric because this is a plug-in hybrid. And then there is a little self-park button as well. We have got your traditional buttons for the gear select, and then on the right-hand side, your electric handbrake and auto hold. Then on the steering wheel on the left hand side, we have got your media and communication controls and voice activation controls. And on the right hand side, we have got your radar guided cruise controls and controls to operate the digital dashboard display. It is something I do like on Honda products, and there's a little button here at the bottom for the heated steering wheel. So yeah, when it comes to the layout, it does feel very much like the Honda Civic. That's no bad thing. And yeah, everything's where you would want it to be. It is very ergonomically sound. I will also mention we have got a 12-volt socket, a USB-A and a USB-C charging input, as well as that wireless charging pad. So we can charge up to 4 devices at the same time. I will mention you have got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have got wireless CarPlay, but it is tethered only for Android Auto. Then we've got things like the infotainment system. So it is the latest generation of infotainment system on a 9-inch touchscreen display. So it is quicker than before, but at 9 inches, yes, it is a little bit smaller than some of its key rivals out there. And then we have got a digital dashboard display on the in front of the steering wheel, and just like other Honda cars I've driven, it's a nice presentation. You're not bombarded with information, and you can go through the various menus using the controls on the steering wheel. Now granted, it hasn't got as much customization as something like a Volkswagen Group product, but for everyday driving, it's just nice, easy to read when you're on the move, and there is a decent amount of information that can be projected for you. So yeah, sat here in the new CRV, it does feel like a new Honda, and we can see this kind of family thing happening with the interiors, like with the ZRV and the Civic, with the kind of honeycomb design. I do really like it. And I will mention as well, there's actually a honeycomb kind of metal effect here on the dash as well as on the door panel. So yeah, sat in the front of the new CRV, it's a nice, comfortable place to be. Exactly what I was expecting. Sat in the back of the new CRV, it is nice and spacious back here, and you're probably thinking I'm talking a load of rubbish because my head is actually rubbing against the ceiling. Now, firstly, the one thing I like is that the doors open to nearly 90 degrees, so it makes it easy to get in and out of the back of the CRV. Now, once I'm sat here, I've got the driver's seat in my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and as you can see, I've got a good amount of knee room. Now, yes, headroom is a little bit limited, and if I didn't have the sunroof, I think I would actually have a bit more space. So 6-footers might find it a little bit tight back here. Now, when it comes to cubby spaces, the door pockets are of a decent size. You can get a medium, possibly even large size bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined again with any fabric. We have got our aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats. Now, they looks like we've got a couple of USB-C charger inputs there, but I thought there was like a little tray area just above it, but there isn't. However, we have got your center armrest with a couple of extra cup holders. And then when it comes to kids, we have got ISOFIX supports on the outer seats. However, They are proper plastic covers, so just be aware you might actually lose those, just like a Volkswagen Group product. So just be aware of that. And then we've got the windows themselves, which are absolutely massive. They are tinted on this car, and at the moment I don't know if they open all the way down. You'll see a little clip and that will answer that question. But I'm going to come back to the seats in the driving position that I'm in, or the seating position I should say. So one thing I can do is I can grab a little lever, and I can recline nice and, well, actually very far back. So I can be very comfortable back here. Also, if I need to extend a little bit of extra space at the back, I do believe, might not be on this car, but you can actually slide the seats forward. There is actually 8-way adjustment, but I'll do a little clip over the top just to show you that. But essentially you can tailor these seats to create a little bit less knee room, a bit more knee room, more boot space, less boot space, and then you can put the seats down. I think actually recline them very far back as well. So yeah, because this is my first time in the CRV, I do need to get to grips with what these seats can do, but there is a huge amount of versatility on offer. So yeah, on that note, it's nice and comfortable back here. I can relax and get the seats in a really nice recline position, but let's see what it's like in that boot. Opening the boot of the new CRV presents you with 617 litres of space, which is a massive boot capacity in this segment. I will mention that the full hybrid version of the CRV does have a slightly smaller boot capacity because that is all-wheel drive. And when you got the boot open, you are greeted by a really nice wide square load area in typical Honda fashion. The boot lip is nice and low, so it means lifting heavy items into the boot is really easy, and even if you've got a dog as well, they can just hop on in and don't have to jump very high up. Also, you've got no load lip whatsoever. And then when it comes to features, we have got a 12-volt socket, we have got some shopping hooks, we've got some tethering hooks as well, and we've also got a bit of additional underfloor storage. So you have got things like your Type 2 charging cable. As I mentioned, you could put your book pack under here as well to make use of the glove box. You have got a little bit of space on either side of the boot as well, and we have got what looks to be a couple of straps there to perhaps put a warning triangle. And then you can get things like the seats nice and flat. However, there is a little bit of a lip at the back that you might need to navigate over. So that's a little bit disappointing because it means you haven't got a totally flat load area. But it is actually really decent. I think as well you can put the tonneau cover underneath the boot floor as well. There are just a couple of little side bits you've got to remove. So that's really handy, which means you've essentially got yourself a little minivan. So yeah, when it comes to the boot capacity and the boot features of the new CRV, I'm really impressed. Right, I haven't got this car for long, so let's go take it for a drive and see what this plug-in hybrid is all about. So once you start driving the new CRV, within 200 yards of driving it, I can tell that this is built to be a comfortable family SUV. The fact that it's a plug-in hybrid as well, it has gone straight into EV mode. Now, with the battery in this plug-in, it is a 17.7 kilowatt hour battery, so you should be able to get a total of around 51 miles of electric range, which is actually very impressive for this type of car. Now, of course, depending on the weather conditions and that can reduce, and also how you drive. Now, the thing with plug-in hybrids is, yes, you can drive up to 51 miles just in electric, but it depends on your kind of journey. Now, my journey to work and back in total can vary between 15 to 20 miles. So a plug-in hybrid is perfect for me because as soon as I get home, I just plug it in and I charge it up. But the thing with plug-in hybrids as well is that you can go through the various hybrid modes. So you can have it as a full hybrid, have it as full electric, or you can have it as a charge system so you don't use any of the electric and just use the engine to basically just charge it up. And then you can have it as well where you kind of hold the charge as well, so you're not driving in EV mode. There are a lot of options available with these type of cars as opposed to a full hybrid where essentially you get about 6 or 7 miles of total EV range, but you don't get that in one go. It kind of chops and changes with the engine, where you got it in full EV, full hybrid, or the engine's doing the work for you and charging up that battery. But I'm just getting up here onto the main road, getting up to speed, and it is feeling very comfortable and very refined as well. There's a little bit of tyre roar coming into the cabin. Haven't really got much in the way of wind noise from the wing mirrors. Now, because this is a big family SUV, visibility is a highlight. So I've got a wonderful view of the road ahead. The A-pillars are surprisingly not as thick as I was expecting, so I don't think I'm going to have any issues looking around at any junctions. The wing mirrors have now been pushed back and they're on the doors, just like on the Civic and the ZRV. And if I look over my shoulder, I actually find the C-pillar, or that D-pillar actually, is not too thick, so it doesn't create too much of a blind spot, but I have got blind spot monitoring on this car as standard. And rear visibility is really good as well. I've got a decent size rear screen. Yes, the headrests from the rear seats, they do obstruct a little bit of your view, but it's not terrible compared to other cars I've driven. And this is something I've noticed recently with Honda cars. Their visibility just seems to be on a different level compared to their rivals. The way the car's been designed, there's this kind of horizon that goes across the front and along to the back of the car, and it means you've just got a really good view out of the car. And just the fact that this is a large SUV means you're sat higher up compared to something like a Honda Civic. So yeah, I know this is a little bit long for a first impression, but this is essentially my first impression driving the new CRV, and I haven't got the car for that long. So yeah, first impressions are very positive, but understand that this is definitely built to be a comfortable family car, not a sporty one. Now, when it comes to trim levels in the new CRV range, I am going to include the full hybrid to let you know how it's kind of set up. So it starts off with the Elegance trim, you then move on to the Advance, and then you get the Advance Tech, which is the plug-in hybrid only. Now, this is essentially kind of the top of the range of the CRV. So you got a top of the range trim level, but also you've got the plug-in hybrid as well, and you can't get the full hybrid with the Advanced Tech. That is the plug-in, and that is reflected in its price tag as well, as just a smidge over £53,000. So the new CRV in plug-in form is not exactly cheap, but if you go for the full hybrid version, you do get a huge amount of standard equipment. You do get Honda's sensing system. In fact, you get an upgrade now. It's called Honda Sense 360. So you get things like 12 cameras around the car, so you can see things when you're changing lanes, indicating things like that. Very Hyundai-like in the way it's been set out. And yeah, you have yourself plenty of safety features, not to mention driver aids and comfort features. Now, there's one of them just there. I was just indicating to come off the roundabout, and you do get that kind of blind spot view coming up on the infotainment system. It doesn't come up on the digital dash like a Hyundai Group product, so it's quite nice to see it's quite there. So you get to see the full 9-inch screen and kind of how it is used there. So that is very cool. So I'm just looking on the Google Maps because I've got a route planned in. Now, when it comes to powering the CRV, it will sound very familiar because it's the same setup as what we've got in the new ZRV and the new Honda Civic. So up front, we have got a 2-litre petrol engine. We have then got a hybrid battery system and electric motor, which powers the front wheels. Power output is 181 brake horsepower. I think it's about 335 Newton meters of torque. So this big family SUV will get from 0 to 62 miles per hour in around 9.4 seconds, which isn't that quick compared to some of its rivals, and that does bring me on to a little bit of a niggle, because when compared to some of its rivals, particularly plug-in cars, this is lacking in power and performance. Even something like the MG HS plug-in hybrid has, I believe, around 255 brake horsepower, and that's a much cheaper car than the CRV. But when you're driving along, the performance is admirable. It's very comfort based. The power, as I said, goes through the front wheels. It's not all-wheel drive on the plug-in version of the CRV. It is on the full hybrid version, all-wheel drive, and as a result, the performance is responsive. You put your foot down and it gets going, whether it be in full EV or hybrid mode, but it's not as quick as some of its rivals. So that's something I will mention there as well. So what's the ride and refinement like in the new CRV? Now, as I said, I've not got the car for too long. I'm not doing a full review where I've had the car for a week, and most of the roads I've been driving on this test route have been lovely, smooth A roads. But something I love about the CRV is it's one of those cars that just seems to tick all the boxes. It rides really nicely. This is actually a very comfortable car. As I said, you've got 18-inch alloy wheels, but look at the sidewall on those tyres. Honda want this to be a really comfortable family SUV, and they've done that. Now, the ride is just really lovely and supple. It deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. At low speed, yes, you can feel some of those little bumps come into the cabin, but the seats, oh, they're really comfortable. These are proper bear chairs, and they do absorb all those little imperfections. This is a brilliant motorway cruiser and a brilliant family car if you want to get to your destination as comfortably as possible. Now, one thing I've noticed on a couple of little undulations and bits in the road where there have been little crests is there is a little bit of body float, despite that this is a big family SUV, but it's not kind of going to give you any kind of motion sickness or anything like that. Again, it just shows that the CRV is tailored to being a very comfortable family car, so it does a brilliant job there. Now, when it comes to the refinement, as I said, this felt very refined when driving. Coming up to speed now, 55, nearly 60 miles an hour. I am finding there's a little bit of tyre roar coming into the cabin, and again though, I can't hear anything in terms of wind noise off the wing mirrors. They just seem to be, despite their huge size, very aerodynamic. And yeah, just the general drive of the CRV is really comfortable. Now, I'm gonna get to the road here and accelerate, and I want to hear what the engine's like. Okay, here we go. So, foot down. I can hear the engine. Not too drony. That's really nice. That's a nice system there. It's a nice amount of insulation. Noise cancelling. So what's the handling like in the new CRV? Well, as you've probably gathered already, this is very much built to be a comfortable family SUV. So it's not the most rewarding car to drive, but it is extremely competent at what it does. Now, firstly, the steering wheel feels really lovely in my hands. I love the quality of the leather. I love the thickness and the size. It feels really right. I know that's a daft thing to say, but it just feels really nice to hold on to. And I do love the dampening of the controls on the steering wheel. But when you chuck it into the corners, if you've got it in normal mode, you do find that there is a little bit of body roll and lean. And if you are going to push it, particularly in a wet and damp conditions, it's probably going to push wide and understeer, but it should feel predictable when it does so. And the steering has got a nice amount of weight to it. I can kind of feel what the front tyres are doing, so it does give me the confidence to chuck it into the corners, but it's not going to give me the rewards I would be expecting from, say, a Ford Kuga. But like I said, this is the thing with the CRV, is it just tends to tick all the boxes. When it comes to parking, the steering is light enough to make it a doddle to park, but there's a good amount of weight in there, so it feels like you're connected to the car. It's not over assisted. I don't feel like I'm in a video game, which other cars do so when you kind of push them on a bit and kind of chuck them into the corners. But with the CRV, no, it's just very competent, and when combined with the ride and the refinement, again, I know I'm repeating myself, it just makes for a really good family SUV, a very comfortable family SUV. If you're going to do lots of long journeys, you'll be really happy with this car. Possibly the full hybrid might be the one to go for, but either way, yeah, you should be happy with it. I mean, coming along to a roundabout now, so I can just kind of give it a bit of a turn. There you go. There's a little bit of lean in the corner, but it feels predictable and it feels comfortable. Yeah, it's, in terms of the CRV's drive, it's a really nice, good all-round combination there of factors. So what are my thoughts on the new Honda CRV plug-in hybrid here on its UK launch? Well, like I've said before, I haven't had the CRV for too long. I've only got it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so, but it is leaving a very good impression on me. Like I said before, the CRV is one of those cars, it does everything really well, but it's not outstanding in one particular area. If you want a comfortable family SUV, this is very comfortable. If you want one that's refined, this is very refined. If you want one that drives well, this drives very well, but it's just not, say, the best. But when you combine all of those elements together, you do find you have a very good family SUV. The fact that you can get now the plug-in with 51 miles of range is a huge positive. The only negatives I've really kind of come across is the price. With the plug-in, with just over £53,000, it's in kind of a grey area, and Honda are aware of this because they know it's more expensive than its main rivals like the Toyota RAV4, Hyundai Tucson, etc. But they know they are close to the premium brands like Lexus, for example, with the NX plug-in hybrid. So they know they're very close to those cars as well. And I'll be honest, for the money, this is a bigger car than the NX. Yes, it doesn't feel as plush on the inside, but it's not too far away. Yes, you got some harder, scratchy plastics lower down, but I wouldn't be disappointed with this. For the price, with the amount of kit that you got, I'd be really impressed by it. I have got a head-up display. I've got 12 cameras around the car. I mean, Big Brother, eat your heart out. It is, like I said, a very good family SUV. It now has a little extra string in its bow by having the plug-in hybrid available. And yeah, I think a lot of business buyers will probably go for the plug-in. A lot of retail buyers will go for the full hybrid. Get that nice mixture of battery and electric power working in combination. Like I said, with the plug-in, with those 51 miles of range, you have to have the lifestyle to be able to use it, to be able to really take full advantage of it. For someone like myself, because, like I said, my daily round trip to work and back is around 20 miles maximum, I can make full use of those 51 miles, charge it up after a couple of days and not use any fuel. But if you are going on a longer journey, that's when plug-ins tend to kind of bite back at you, and you, especially if you don't know how to kind of go through all the various hybrid systems. Because like I said, you can have it full EV, you can have it auto, you can have it where it just charges the battery and uses the petrol engine. So yeah, it's a very good car, the plug-in hybrid, but just make sure you're in the market for it, because if not, just go for the full hybrid, because you won't be disappointed. You get plenty of kit, as standard, and you should have all those comfort features as well. I've not driven the full hybrid yet, but yeah, I'll let you know shortly. Now you're probably thinking, Dave, this is just a Honda HR-V with a filled-in grille, and you'd be partly right. Yes, the new Ny1 does look like a Honda HR-V, but this is a full electric vehicle. This is the brand's second EV in the country since the Honda E arrived 3 years ago. Now that was a small selling niche little car, but this is the important one for Honda. This is the one where they've got to sell in its masses. So it is actually going into a very competitive segment against a lot of established contenders. And I'm here on the UK launch of the new Ny1, and I'm going to let you know what it's like for the limited time I've got it to drive. Now when it comes to the Ny1's styling, yes, it does look like a Honda HR-V, but it has been tweaked, of course, to make it a fully electric vehicle. We have got a filled-in grille at the front, but if you press a little button, it does unveil the charging ports there, which is nice and handy and easy to get to, unlike something like a first-generation MG ZS EV. Now the other quirky features as well is that we've got 18-inch alloy wheels. That's the only size you can get for the car, but they have got that kind of unique aerodynamic look to them. And it's actually at the tail of the new Ny1 where we see some differences compared to the HR-V. We still have that light bar design and the LEDs, but gone is the Honda badge. We've actually just got the Honda nameplate put on there instead, which is quite unique and definitely following a trend that other manufacturers are doing as well. But I also mentioned as well at the front, the Honda badge is different as well. It is actually white as compared to being three-dimensional and silver. So that is a unique feature, and you can also see it on the center caps of the alloy wheels as well. But let me know what you think of the Ny1 styling in the comments section below, and I will mention now Honda do not like this being referred to as the Anyone. But anyway, on that note, I think it's time we have a little look on the interior and see what Honda have done there. So in the front of the Ny1, we are greeted by a very comfortable cabin, which is quite different to the HR-V. This is where we start to see the differences between a hybrid car and the full EV. Now, because this is a small SUV, you do sit a little bit higher than you would do in a hatchback, so getting in and out of the Ny1 is actually very easy. So if you do suffer from any kind of mobility issues, then this is one EV to consider. And then once you're sat in the driver's seat, you find that the seats are very comfortable. They do hold a big bear like me in place, and there is a plenty of adjustment, but surprisingly, I've got no lumbar support, so there's just something to be aware of. And then with the steering, we have got both rake and reach adjustment, so getting the ideal driving position is easy. Now, one thing I do remember with the HR-V is that interior quality was, well, a lot of hard, scratchy plastics, and for the most part, it is the same here as well, apart from here on the dash and on the door panels where we have got a little bit of leatherette trim. And I will mention it is synthetic leather here on the Ny1. And then we find a couple of the very big changes in here. So the massive one that dominates the interior is a 15.1-inch touchscreen display, and it is set up in portrait mode. And straight away, the graphics are very clear. It's very vibrant in the way it displays them, and it is split into 3 sections. At the bottom is things like your heated seats and your dual zone climate control. I think it's dual zone. Let's have a little look. Yes, it is dual zone. It was actually switched off, so I do apologise there. In the centre, we got things like your media display, and on the top would be things like your Apple CarPlay and also things like the maps and stuff. So that's actually a nice kind of unique feature, the way it's been split and divided. Now, there are 3 physical buttons on here. One of them is the hazard light, and 2 of them basically do the front demisting and the rear and wing mirrors. So that's a nice kind of little feature to have there, so you don't have to do it via the touchscreen. But what I like as well is that it's not hidden away under various menus. It's right there ready to go. Now, when it comes to things like cubby spaces, it's not too bad back here. It's actually, well, decent door pockets. You can get a medium-sized bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around a bit. On the center console, firstly, we've got a wireless charging pad with a couple of USB chargers. One's a USB-A, the other's a USB-C, and a 12-volt socket. Then just behind there we have got two very deep but not rubber-lined cup holders with a couple of plastic grippers, so they'll be very handy. And then we got under your centre armrest a little bit of extra space. It is rubber-lined, but there are rivals out there that have more space. And then finally we have got the glove box, which is of a decent size. The book pack is quite big as well, and it's not lined with any fabric or rubber, so again, loose items will rattle around in there. But yeah, when it comes to the cubby spaces here in the Ny1, they're not too bad, and it is actually nice and ergonomically laid out in here. Yeah. And then finally we have got a digital dashboard display. It looks to be about a 10 or maybe 12-inch display, but it's very clear. I do like the graphics on here as well, and you're not bombarded with information. And as I mentioned, just using the buttons on the left-hand side of the display, you can go through the various menus. So I do like that because it means it's easy to use when on the move. So yeah, being sat here in the front of the Ny1, it's a nice, comfortable place to be, but it does feel very different to the Honda HR-V hybrid. So let's very quickly have a sit in the back, see the boots, and then go for a drive. Sat in the back of the Ny1, it's actually nice and spacious and comfortable back here. Now that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and as you can see, I've got a good amount of knee room, and headroom is not too bad either. I would say if you are 6 foot tall, you might find your head rubbing against the ceiling, so that's just something to be aware of. Now when it comes to cubby spaces, we've got tiny little door pockets here where you can put a small can of drink or maybe a medium-sized bottle in there, but there's no proper door pockets, so that's a little bit disappointing. Now we have got our aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats. We've got a little storage area where you can perhaps put your phone whilst it's charging, because we've got two USB-C charging inputs. And then finally, we have got a centre armrest with a couple of extra cup holders in there. I would like the armrest, however, to kind of get to about there rather than just fold all the way down. And then we've got the windows, which are of a nice decent size. I'll be honest, I don't know if they open all the way down. Here's a little clip just to show you what that answer is, but they are of a decent size and they are tinted on this car. Now, the other thing I am going to mention is I have got a sunroof back here, or a screen of some sort, but it's a bit unique on how I get there. Hold on. Okay, that's a bit different. Yeah, you've got two panels which you can put up here to block the sun out. I'll put them in the front there, and I'll probably, if it was me, I'd leave them at home. I wouldn't mind just having the sunshine coming in all the time. But they are, yeah, quite easy to take off and fix, but that is quite unique. But yeah, I do like that feature. So anyway, being sat here in the back of the Ny1, it is a nice, comfortable place to be. I would like some larger door pockets, but do you know what? It's not too bad back here. And before we go and have a look at the boot, I will mention that the Isofix don't have any covers on them, so it's actually quite easy to affix a child seat, although the bar is quite far in, so it might take a couple of goes to affix a child seat. But anyway, on that note, let's have a quick look at the boot. So opening the boot of the Ny1 presents you with 346 litres of space, which in this price bracket doesn't really compete with some of its larger rivals, but when you get the boot open, you are greeted by a nice wide square load area where you could get a couple of suitcases or a few weekend bags in there at a push. One thing I will mention is that the load lip is a little bit higher up than what I'm used to seeing with Honda, but it shouldn't be too bad to kind of get any large or bulky items in there, because you have got no load lip there whatsoever, so that's one positive. Now, it's not devoid of features either. We have got some tethering hooks, we have got a shopping hook here as well, but surprisingly no 12-volt socket. Now, we have got a bit of storage underneath the boot floor, so you can keep your charging cables in there, and I will mention there is no frunk on the Ny1. And something I do like as well is that when you get the seats down, you have an almost completely flat load area. And I will mention on the Ny1, we don't get the magic seats. So that is a little bit disappointing. However, they've deliberately got a bit more padding in them to make it a more comfortable car, especially for rear passengers. So yeah, when it means to the boot capacity on the ENY1, it is not too bad, but when compared to its rivals at this price bracket, yeah, it is a little bit lagging behind. But on that note, I think it's time we get the boot closed and take the ENY1 for a drive. So once you start driving the ENY1, first impressions, think of this as like the step up in terms of spec and upgrade and performance. With the HRV, you haven't got that petrol engine, which was a little bit noisy when you put your foot down, but now you just get it replaced with the sci-fi noise you get from an electric vehicle. But I'm driving on a bit of a rough B road here, and the first impressions are really positive. It's dealing with the bumps really well. And you do get 18-inch alloy wheels as standard. You don't get them any bigger. So I do like that, because there are cars out there where you can get 19s and 20s, and they are going to affect the ride comfort and quality. But sticking with 18s, thank you very much, Honda, because it does mean the emphasis is on ride comfort. Visibility is very good in the HRV. So just like the Civic, just like the CRV and the ZRV, we've got this kind of flat perimeter and flat line going all the way around the car, which means visibility is really good. Now, because the ENY1 is a small SUV, I got a slightly raised driving position. I got a great view of the road ahead. The A-pillars are not too thick, but they are a little bit chunky. But like I had with the HRV, I'm not going to find myself looking around them at any junctions. The wing mirrors have been pushed back onto the doors, and they are of a nice size and shape. And then, if I look behind me, I have got a slightly thick C-pillar, but I have got blind spot monitoring as standard. And then rear visibility is absolutely fine. I've got a nice size screen, and the headrests don't actually obstruct my view. So you've got a clear view behind you. So yeah, once you get going in the ENY1, I do apologise if I kind of mistakenly call it a HRV. That's just kind of how my mind is set at the moment. But ENY1, as I get going, yeah, it just turns out to be a very nice, comfortable car. I'm just going to wait for this car to pass. And if we accelerate, nice sci-fi electric noise. Yeah, it's very positive. Oh, let's get myself in this little... There we go. Yeah, first impressions, very positive. Now, there are two trim levels to choose from in the ENY1 range. There is the Elegance and the Advance. Now, both of them come with a huge amount of standard equipment. I'll put it on the screen for you now, because Honda don't consider the Elegance as like an entry-level trim. Essentially, what you do is you just get a huge amount of standard equipment, especially when it comes to safety, and then you just get a few extra creature comforts on top of them. Now, I do believe I'm in the Advance, and I got things like the sunroof, which is a nice extra. I'm gonna have to go backwards here. Oh no, he's letting me go. But just be aware, with this type of car, you are gonna have to pay for it. It's not the cheapest car in its class. So that's just something to be aware of with the ENY1. And I would probably say go for the Advance. Get all the toys and features as standard, because when it comes to perhaps part exchange in the car after release, it will retain its value. And that is something I do like about Hondas. They do tend to retain their value. As an electric vehicle, that would be perhaps a different story. We'll just have to wait and see for a couple of years' time. But yeah, you get a huge amount of standard equipment. If you go for the Elegance or the Advance, either way, you will be satisfied with the amount of standard kit you get. Now, when it comes to powering the ENY1, there's only one battery available. It is a 68.8 kilowatt hour battery, producing a smidge over 200 brake horsepower. And that means that the ENY1 can get from 0 to 62 miles per hour in a smidge over 7 seconds. Now, when it comes to range, Honda say I should get around 280 156 miles on a full charge. Now again, compared to its rivals, especially around this price bracket, it does fall a little bit behind. But over 250 miles of range is still pretty decent, really, as standard. Now, when it comes to charging, it can do a maximum of 100 kilowatt charging. So again, yes, it does fall behind some of its rivals, but essentially you can go from 10 to 80% in around 46 minutes. So it does mean that if you have to stop off at a services and charge the car up, you are going to need an extra cup of tea in between your wheeze. So just something to be aware of there. But that is an admirable amount of charging capability for this type of car. So what's the ride and refinement like in the Ny1? So I'm driving along now around 40 miles an hour. I've got a car in front of me, so I can't quite go at the national speed limit. But when it comes to the ride, it is comfortable, but there's an element of firmness to the suspension setup. So I am again really happy that Honda have gone with 18-inch alloy wheels, so you have got a little bit of a sidewall to the tyre, as opposed to 19s and 20s we've seen from other manufacturers. And it deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. In fact, actually any imperfections that come through into the cabin, the seats do a good job of kind of taking the sting out of those bumps. Now, I will be honest, I have driven the new 6th generation CRV earlier today, and that has a really lovely ride to it. And I will say the seats are much better than what they are in the Ny1. However, that is a more expensive car and a larger car as well. Those are proper bear chairs. However, I got no complaints with the Ny1. It is holding me in place, even though I am a bit of a wide bear, but I could easily do a long journey in this car and come out the other end feeling nice and relaxed. It's dealing with the bumps and imperfections really well. And yeah, if you go over a manhole cover or perhaps a pothole, you might get a bit of a boom and a jolt coming into the cabin, but it deals with it really well, and the car basically kind of settles down very quickly. Now, refinement is also an area it's doing very well. I mean, I've got relatively large wing mirrors. I'm not getting much in the way of wind noise coming from them. If anything, a little bit of tyre roar. I think that's the main intrusion into the cabin. And you do get that electric sci-fi noise in the background. But again, I could do a long journey in this car and come out the other end feeling, yeah, lovely and relaxed, nice and comfortable, and not feel as though I've been kind of through a washing machine with wheels on it. Now, when it comes to the Ny1's handling, just like the CRV, I've got no complaints whatsoever. Starting with the steering wheel itself, it feels really lovely in my hands. I love the quality of the leather, and just the size and the thickness is spot on. I really do like it. And then when you kind of chuck it into corners, there's a nice amount of weight, so you don't feel detached from the car, and you know what the front wheels are doing. And as well, it's light enough to make parking an absolute doddle. And you know, when you chuck it into the corners, you will find that there's a little bit of lean and roll there, just to highlight the fact that this is a family EV SUV as opposed to a very sporty one. But again, just like the CRV, that's not the intention of this car. This is meant to be a nice, practical family car to get you from A to B in as most comfort and relaxing way as possible. So yeah, when you kind of combine all of those factors together, you got the ride, refinement and handling, yeah, it just does everything very well. I wouldn't say it was class leading, I wouldn't say it stands out in a particular area, but it just does everything that it needs to, which is what you want from this kind of car. Now, when it comes to brake regeneration in the Ny1, you operate it using the paddles on the back of the steering wheel. Now, use the left one to increase its power, or increase its strength, I should say. And if I take my foot off the accelerator, yeah, there's some braking there, but I wouldn't call it full one pedal braking. It actually seems a little bit light, which is a bit disappointing, especially when compared to something like a Hyundai Ioniq 5. And I'm just looking at the gear select buttons here, and there's no B option available, which is essentially the brake regen option there, which I got in the CRV plug-in hybrid. And the other thing I'll notice as well is that already that strength has disappeared. And I know this is a Honda trait because I've seen it with other cars. So I would like a system in place that if I do put it in its strongest setting, that it stays there. And even, yeah, that's a little bit disappointing. I'd like a little bit more strength in the regeneration. So what are my thoughts on the new Honda Ny1 here on its UK media launch? Well, this is a very important car for Honda. They can't screw this one up. They knew the Honda E was going to be a very niche, quirky car and was not going to sell in its masses. But with this Ny1, not the NE1, the Ny1, they've done a very good job with it. Now, there are several factors that will come into play. One of them is cost for the size of the car. And at around £45,000, it is an awful lot of money, but not necessarily in terms of you get an awful lot of car, but you get a huge amount of standard equipment compared to some of its rivals, particularly those in a lower price bracket. This just completely outshines them with standard equipment, with creature comforts, with driver aids. It does very well there. The one thing as well with Honda customers is that they are extremely loyal, and if they want to get themselves into an electric vehicle, they're going to want to stick with a brand they know and trust. And I think they will be very happy with the Ny1. It is a very comfortable car, very well equipped. It has got decent range, over 250 miles range. Is still decent. You shouldn't have range anxiety with this car. The other thing as well is that Honda is selling something that they call e-Progress. Now, I'm just going to kind of skimp over the top of this, but essentially it's a charging system or a home charging system where this will charge the car at the cheapest times possible. And what that means is that you save money over the long term. You save the planet when it comes to things like CO2, but just using an app, you can amend and change that to how your lifestyle fits. If you have to go out for an appointment, if you have to do something where you have to leave earlier than usual, you can set that so the car will be ready for you at the end of it. Now that's something that's being done, I believe, with British Gas. So there's like a system in place there, but that's a nice incentive. If you know that you're going to get yourself a home charger, that's going to save you money, as opposed to just plugging it in and walking away. It's going to be a win-win. And then all of a sudden, those pennies start to make sense. You're getting your money back compared to other cars out there. So yeah, the Ny1, it's a very good electric car, but it is expensive. It is smaller than some of its rivals. It has got less range than some of its rivals, but you get an awful lot of standard kit for your money. And if you do go with their e-Progress system, you get to save money as well in the long run. And I think there you get a bit of a win-win. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my double review of the new 6th generation Honda CRV plug-in hybrid and the all-new, all-electric Honda Ny1. If you've got any questions about the cars I've driven today, please put them down in the comments section below and I will do my utmost to answer them. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. I am on social media as well. I'm on Facebook, Instagram and X and Threads and other quirky names for social media out there. So don't forget to follow there as well for additional content. But yeah, this has been a very good day. I've driven two very good cars. The CRV, I've always had a soft spot for the CRV. It's just a big bear bus and absolutely love it. The Ny1 is a very good electric car from Honda. This is the effort, this is the car that they need to sell well, and I can see it doing well. Like I said, don't worry about the price tag, just go there, have a drive, see what you think, enjoy all the technology available, and who knows, you could have one on your driveway. But in the meantime, everyone, have yourselves a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. So take care, everybody, and bye-bye.